Stop watching survival videos and start preparing for you and your family's future. You won't need primitive survival skills if you put a logical and a sensible plan in place today. Stay with me to learn why I feel that most survival videos will lead you down a path that will ultimately result in your death. And stick around till the end to see these 2 recommendations for survival gear that most of you haven't considered. What's up, my friends? Whether you're a survivalist, a prepper, male, female, believer, non-believer, Democrat, Republican, or none of the above, welcome to a channel that offers something for everyone. My name's Brandon, and I'll be your host with assistance from special guests for this and every other video that comes from this channel. Considering everything that's going on today, why would I ever recommend that you stop watching survival videos? I mean, you're here watching this video because you're interested in survival, right? In the event of a nuclear war, a major volcanic event, EMP attack, economic collapse, meteor strike, or an alien invasion, the goal should be to survive. And many of you think that watching survival videos is a great way to learn the primitive survival skills needed to keep you and your family safe through a catastrophic event, right? Or maybe I'm way off base and you don't put a lot of credit into learning the art of building a mud hut or living in a snow cave. Maybe constructing a bow and arrow from scratch is a little far-fetched, and you realize that this probably won't have a place in your survival plan. However, after reading through the thousands of comments left by viewers of these off-the-grid, backwoods, far off the beaten path, extremely nomadic, solitary, isolated survival videos, it seems that many of you believe this is where we'll end up. But why? Why do so many of you think that living in a mud hut in the middle of the forest is a realistic survival goal? How long do you really believe you can survive in such a primitive location that requires skills that most of us don't possess, even with instruction afforded through YouTube videos? The answer is not very long. Most of us live in a world surrounded by homes, businesses, and other permanent structures. Although survival videos that show men and women living off the grid in remote, hard-to-reach locations are fun to watch, most of us live in urban areas that are far from forested or isolated areas. Many survival videos start with a guy walking through the woods with a backpack and an introduction that makes us believe he only had a few minutes to bug out, and this is where he ended up. And with only a survival knife, some paracord, a ferro rod, and a striker, he's going to survive until it's safe to return to civilization. Now, I'm not a psychic, and I'm sure there may be a situation at some point in our future that will require a small number of us to survive in this type of fashion. But it's probably safe to say that 95% of us will not choose to live under a lean-to shelter if the shit hits the fan. Great videos and hats off to survivalists who have the skills to live indefinitely off-grid. However, most of us would die a slow death if forced into this type of survival situation. So where will most of us end up following a catastrophic natural or man-made event? If we use a recent well-documented event, such as the landfall of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, Louisiana in 2005, we have all the information we need to see how residents were either forced to or chose to survive. For nearly 15 days, most residents were without power and civil disorder was rampant. Food and potable water were scarce, travel was restricted, and medical attention was difficult to find. For the residents of New Orleans, this was a life or death situation that most were not prepared for. This was a survival situation not unlike what we might find ourselves in following any number of major catastrophic events. However, what made this survival situation in New Orleans a bit different from some events we may face, such as a nuclear attack, was that help was made available for the residents of New Orleans. The National Guard was mobilized, federal assistance was provided, and the local police force helped to restore order. What if this type of help wasn't available? What if you were the only one you could count on? In any situation, whether local and federal assistance is available or not, chances are most of us will choose to shelter in place. If you're not familiar with this term, we would simply remain in a safe location, indoors, preferably at a location known to us until it was safe to venture outside. If our house is still standing and it's located outside of a potential war zone or danger area, we'd most likely choose our house as the safer place to be. Only in rare situations would we consider bugging out or leaving for another area. However, even though this isn't likely, it's still a possibility and a bug out bag should be readily available. Look for a future video on what to pack in your bug out bag. So since we know we're probably going to shelter in place and not make a run for the nearest forest, let's start preparing our home for a long-term stay. Let's make sure that you and your family have food, water, warmth, waste disposal, lighting, protection, and believe it or not, entertainment. You and your family's mental state and morale will be part of the survival equation. You can have all the latest and greatest survival supplies and equipment, but if you don't have the will to survive, you will die. Entertainment can take the form of a deck of cards, music, movies, magazines, puzzles, and more. Being able to distract oneself from the mundane but oftentimes horrific reality of survival will be vital to maintaining an adequate level of mental health and morale. Sitting in your home day in and day out for weeks or months without any form of entertainment will take a serious toll on everyone. Very soon we'll post a video on how to create a Faraday cage to protect electronic equipment so that music and movies can be available during your survival event. As we discussed in our last video, preparing your get-home bag, one of your goals in any survival emergency situation is to get to your home base. Whether this takes you several hours or several days, if possible and you believe your home is still standing and not in a danger area, you should make your way to it. Your home should be equipped to provide you with the best chance of survival. Once you reach your home, you should initiate your emergency action plan. This plan may include boarding up windows, loading and staging firearms, briefing everyone in the home as to their specific mission, filling up water jugs, powering up emergency radios, placing candles throughout the home, or any number of other steps you determine to be important in your emergency action plan. Throughout the next several videos, I'm going to discuss items that you should be stocking up on, tools and equipment that will be needed, and other essential steps to take so that your home will give you the best chance of surviving any number of natural or man-made survival scenarios. From Faraday cages to guns and ammo, I'm going to cover a wide range of topics that should help anyone to better prepare their home for the pending collapse of mankind as we know it. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's coming and we need to be prepared. Now let's take a few minutes to look at two items that I think everyone should consider for their survival products and supplies inventory. The first item I chose is a common fire log that can be picked up at most supermarkets, Walmart, or home improvement stores. Fire logs are artificial manufactured logs constructed to be used as wood fuel just as any piece of firewood would be. After having tried several different brands of fire logs, I recommend the Duraflame as they seem to light easier, burn more evenly, and burn longer. Some of the other brands I tried failed to stay lit after the paper was lit and burnt off. I also recommend purchasing indoor-outdoor logs with a 3-hour burn time. These Duraflame logs can be used in a survival situation to produce heat from a wood-burning fireplace, fire pit, or campfire. Fire logs can be used alone or in combination with traditional firewood, and they're also good for boiling water to eliminate disease-causing organisms. This is recommended before drinking water from lakes, rivers, puddles, or using water for cooking or rehydrating food. Oftentimes in a survival situation, especially when you're at home in an urban environment, you may not have firewood on hand, or it may be the middle of summer when firewood isn't on the top of your shopping list, and it's hard to find since very few people buy firewood in the summer. However, in a survival situation, fire can be a lifesaver. Having several boxes of fire logs stored in a cool, dry place could come in very handy. And based on my research, there's no shelf life for these fire logs. It appears that as long as they're stored in the right environment, they should be able to light years from the date of purchase. Please read the manufacturer's safety instructions before use. One such warning about the Duraflame logs that stood out to me was that they're not to be used for cooking. I imagine this warning would apply to all manufactured fire logs. Other recommendations and warnings should be followed. However, in a life or death situation, you may have to decide which warnings would be applicable in a dire situation. Another item that I think any home inventory should include is a hand crank radio. This item would also be recommended for your Bugout bag or as an additional item for your get-home bag. The radio that I use is the Cato Voyager Solar and Crank Weather Alert multi-band radio, which also includes a cell phone charger. This particular radio offers 11 bands to include AM, FM, shortwave 1 and 2, and the NOAA weather bands and alerts. It has an LED flashlight, a self-powered hand cranking charging system, adjustable solar panel, built-in USB port, and a water-resistant rubberized body. Additionally, it includes power tips to charge most cell phone models and several other devices such as an MP3. If you don't need to rely on the hand crank or the solar panel, this does work with 3 AA batteries and or an AC adapter. Needless to say, regardless of your situation, this radio will work when you need it most. In addition to all the supplies, tools, and equipment and food you'll need during a survival event, reliable information should also be considered a vital component to your life-saving inventory. Whether or not information will be forthcoming through normal radio channels is questionable, but you should have the ability to tune in to local channels if they're still operational. Information concerning evacuations, incoming attacks, meteorological events, radiation levels, etc. could be of vital importance and help to direct your movements and decisions. For more tips, advice, and training to help you survive the unexpected, stay with me, watch my videos, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell so you can be notified when I post new content. And when I find other survivalists and preppers that may cover content not covered here, I'll give them a shout out because my main goal is to help you to prepare for the unexpected. Until next time, be safe, be prepared, and be ready.